Hey everyone. I think everyone knows at least one good vigilante story with someone who isn't part of the police but still wants to go stop crime and help people. Of course, the most well-known ones are like really goofy, like that one guy who dressed up as Batman and went out at night to stop criminals whenever he came across them. But sometimes, I feel like there's this belief that vigilantes are just people who do it for the fun of it, because most of the time, they go out at night and aim to use violent force to catch and arrest people. With a small side of them saying that it's for justice, therefore it's a good reason for them to do it. But I think there are a few occasions where a vigilante actually has a good justification for what they're doing. And this is one person I'm going to talk about today, because I do actually feel like he deserves some respect for what he did, as well as for his recent death that was caused by his act trying to stop a criminal. The man I'm talking about is 40-year-old Robert Lee, who would pose as a teenage girl online to catch predators, where he would set up like meetings outside in public so he could expose them, bring in law enforcement whenever he could to arrest them as well. So already, you might see this as similar to like To Catch a Predator, and that's because he was inspired by an online group called Dads Against Predators. And as you can tell by the name, this was a group of people who were scared of potential pedophiles out in society, so they took action by setting up like these kind of meetings to expose them. I'm sure with how massive social media is now, any parent would be scared of their kid talking to a pedophile online. Because even though you might try really hard to keep an eye on what your kid does, you can't always guarantee that there isn't some creep out there trying to like prey on them and speak with them. Which is why you have to respect people like Robert Lee, who would go out in public and expose people who look normal but were secretly pedophiles. And although not every meeting ended with the pedophile being taken to jail, he still led to over 100 of them being arrested, as well as making people aware of who they were. And like I said before, he would go online and pretend to be like a teenage girl to like low potential predators. And to be honest, the one thing that struck me as weird was the name that he used, that being Bupak Shakur, which is a really weird name to use like as an alias online for a girl, when most of the time you expect it to be like a really young name to make it seem like they're actually young. But I guess if you're dumb enough to try and meet a girl called Bupak Shakur, you deserve to be in prison anyways. However, although he did lead to a lot of pedophiles being arrested, he did unfortunately get killed in the most recent meeting he did trying to catch someone, which happened in a fast food place in Michigan, where he confronted two people, a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old, accusing that one of them was a pedophile and then punching him. This sounded horrible, with the guy pulling out a knife on Lee, with his friend also taking out a gun and shooting him several times. He later died in a hospital from his injuries, and although the teenagers did run from the place, they were later arrested that afternoon. As of right now, the police hasn't released the names of the criminals who were arrested, but the family and friends of Robert Lee have held a vigil at the restaurant where it all happened. And I'm glad that they pay respect for all his work and effort trying to protect children. This really is one of those sad stories where someone dies trying to protect others by exposing people like criminals or predators. And imagine that it took a lot of work for him to like set up these meetings, where a few might have been like out of state, but he still drove there anyways because he really wanted them to go to prison. And although this was the last meeting that turned out horribly, there were definitely others in the past that were very close to getting aggressive. Trying to catch pedophiles outside in public is dangerous by itself, because if you've seen shows like To Catch a Predator or videos on YouTube online, there are moments where the guys are about to get violent to try to escape. Most of the time, they don't, because they know the police is outside anyways, so they don't have a chance. But if you're by yourself trying to expose a guy out in public, where in the US where most people like open carry, it's not like it's an entirely danger-free act. There were certain occasions where he could bring along police officers to arrest the person, but that was only when he had enough evidence to prove that they were actually pedophiles. So it is horrible that this was the one time that he didn't bring any with him, and it turned out horribly. I'm sure there was an attempt beforehand to get the law involved, but couldn't happen because of like the lack of evidence. Some people could argue that if he waited a bit longer, he could have brought like police officers with him, but perhaps he was worried that now was the best possible time to catch them, with the legal process after, when he showed that they would actually go to jail. I've noticed this kind of trend with people trying to catch predators, especially on YouTube, where they tend to go by themselves, which is a really like head-first method to get them arrested or catch them, instead of waiting to make sure they have all the evidence prepared. Because if they don't, it could turn out to like a huge court battle with the guy being let go anyways, simply because you can't charge someone just by suspicion, so it would just end up just being like a huge waste of time. I have seen people before who put more effort into these kinds of meetings, like talking with law enforcement beforehand, like Skeeter Jean, who most of you have probably already seen working with Gideon trying to arrest EDP. But not everyone has that kind of connection where he can bring that safety or support. And even though the police did mention like they appreciate his intentions behind it, they warn people that this kind of stuff is dangerous and should only be handled by the police. Personally, I still feel like it's tragic that this man died doing like an actual like respectable act with good intentions behind it. And the people mourning for his death have also opened a GoFundMe to pay for the funeral, as well as like the expenses for his daughter that he had. I'll leave a link to it down below in the description, because I feel like this man still deserves to be honored and having his daughter supported as well during this difficult time. So far, many members from Dads Against Predators have made a lot of donations, which makes me glad, because he deserves to be recognized for like all the effort he put in and the huge amount of arrests he led to. But at the end of the day, I still think it's awful that this man died trying to do an horrible act. And I just hope people like him try to be 100% sure that they're cautious when doing this kind of stuff, because it can turn out horrible. But that's all I have to say. So if you got the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.